This is Things You Might Have Heard. I am Jake Van Payne, and this morning I have for you 8 stories in the queue that you deemed as conversational. You vetted them as great stories to chat about, covering information, current events, pop culture, and politics news. I say morning because I'm doing this live, 5:30 in the morning a.m. Central Time. So I am here, and if you're not here live, give me a comment later on and let me know where you're listening from, why it's going on, and how you get your news in general, and how you get the news from us enjoying that one. Now, we'll explain the vetting process, why these 8 stories that we're talking about. It's kind of an election day hangover. We're going to start off with some election fallout things and then some more not fallout things. Things are just sort of kind of spotty news going because that's what you want to talk about. But today it's featuring Charlamagne Tha God, Joe Rogan, and yes, Gypsy Rose Blanchard. We have an answer. We know who the father is. We'll get to that towards the end of today's headlines. Now, towards the vetting process will be explained in a bit, but I want to remind you that our website is thisistheconversationproject.com. More details about how we do things and the value you actually get from us as conversationalists in our project. And our email address, theconversationinbox@gmail.com, because that's what was available at Gmail. Email us anytime you feel like it so we can get into conversations about our conversations. If not said so far, I brought up it was a hangover from Election Day, which was 2 days ago. Thursday, November the 7th is actually today of 2024. As I said, 8 stories are in the queue, no particular order by any sort of rhyme or reason, other than the fact that they all seem to flow very well. The first 4 stories deal with election stuff, so that's why they're there. But other than that, no real issues on which was the higher score or lower score. But these were extremely engaging stories from the past day, would have been Wednesday. Moving on to the past day and Wednesday. Story number 1, kicking off with Charlamagne Tha God calls out people who voiced their support for Kamala Harris, but went in the booth to vote for Donald Trump. After the election come last Tuesday, which is 2 days ago, radio personality Charlamagne Tha God criticized individuals who publicly supported Kamala Harris but privately voted for Donald Trump. He expressed frustration over this discrepancy, highlighting the challenges in accuracy gauging over voting intentions. Charlamagne emphasized the importance of aligning public endorsements with actual voting behavior to ensure genuine representation of support. Now, we don't actually know, because you can't read in people's minds or their hearts particularly, how things went. What we do know is from polling over the last couple of months, specifically directly when Kamala Harris came into the race about 100 or so days into everything happening up toward the election, polling went around equal. Polling went around the average being right at the nose. It was basically a coin flip back and forth. When the elections results came in, it was not quite a coin flip, and Donald Trump right now is winning the popular vote by about 5 million votes. With that, on top of that, he also is winning all the electoral college votes that matter, pretty much all of them, a big majority, getting them out, calling it a landslide in electoral college terms. But the big thing is there's a lot of talk about secret women voters, women who were telling folks they were voting for Trump, but actually saying, no, we got Harris, we're cool. But on the back end, it turned into more of a secret vote for Trump, especially for him gaining ground in men. Well, men we already had taken care of, gaining ground with a lot of Black men, Latino men, and just staying consistent with women. People essentially said they were voting for Harris and actually went and pulled lever for Trump, if you have levers these days. It's an interesting take. It's an interesting thought process. In the meantime, we have what we have. The die is cast. The results are coming in, and Donald Trump's going to be our next president again at 47. Will he be able to keep on the mantle of doing the things he's doing? That we'll have to keep an eye on and look out for. But right now, it does look like there was a lot of hope for Kamala Harris having a shot, but apparently we're not quite ready for a woman as president, or as many people said, once again, it's the woman, and this is not the woman to take that spot. 2 women in the news thanks to Steve Bannon, as he floats the idea of Marjorie Taylor Greene being on the cabinet for Trump and vows retribution against Liz Cheney. She's going down, Greene's going up. Following Donald Trump's victory over Kamala Harris in the recent presidential election, former White House chief strategist and all-around scruffy guy Steve Bannon suggested that Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene out of Georgia could be on Trump's cabinet. Didn't know what she'd do, but just kind of be there. Just have there be a spot, and she would take one of those spots. This discussion between Bannon and Greene, when Bannon's back to yakking, both expressing intentions to seek retribution against former Liz Cheney, which is basically why the conversation came up. And so essentially, if Greene can basically, take out Cheney, that's earning a spot for the Trump party or the Trump cabinet going forward. It's just two radicals just chit-chatting back and forth, talking about their disdain for somebody who said they didn't like them. And in politics, you either like someone or you don't until the election term's over, and then you're just supposed to work with them and just kind of fake like you can get along with them. Well, Liz Cheney, she is essentially ostracized herself from all Republican parties things going forward, as she has been very, very staunch against the MAGA crowd, if you will. And now we found out the MAGA crowd essentially is what we're calling the true Republicans. People on that bent are running the show, and people who were traditional conservatives or the Cheney conservatives, more like, Dick as opposed to Liz, if you will, no longer have a place in the Republican Party. And there's not enough organization, third parties don't work, to bring them together to get enough power and influence to do something on their own, unless they steal it. Just throwing it out there. And it's Split Screen Thursday. We have a lot of split screens going on today. Here is a new one that may have shocked you. Former Survivor contestant Nick Brown becomes first Black person to be elected Attorney General in Washington. A Democrat and former U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Washington has been elected as Washington State's Attorney General, defeating Republican Pete Serrano. The victory makes Brown the first Black individual to hold the state position in the history of Washington State. And through his campaign, he emphasized addressing issues such as gun violence, substance abuse, and crime, focused on prevention and treatment. Washington State, the whole northern east part of the United States, has a lot of issues with a lot of the counterculture that was cool back in the 90s, turned to just a lot of weirdness and just crime that's rampant that can't really be explained or controlled here in 2024. And Brown is going to try to work on that. He highlighted also expensive government and private practices that essentially allow for people to get nothing done, which is why he's going to do things going forward. Now, here's the thing. This guy was on Survivor. He's not on House of Villains. He's not trying to write books. He's not doing other stuff. I mean, Omarosa was in Trump and White House, so, there's that. But he's not out there trying to run up his fame as a reality show guy. He's trying to do something, and we're going to see how well he can do something in Washington State. So we have eyeballs on this guy. Good job, Nick Brown. Thank you for trying to do what you're trying to do. Let's hope it works. We're watching you. Finally, well, we got 4 more stories after the quick promotion break, but finally in the last bit, that is the post-election hangover, we're going to talk about this news article, which is very interesting. An MSNBC viewer was asked in Arizona, about his vote. He said he voted for Trump. And the reason why is because he said specifically Harris didn't go on Joe Rogan's podcast. This from a voter in Arizona, as MSNBC is doing its day after reporting, talking about, what happened, why it was going on, what's the landscape. And this voter said specifically, Donald Trump got the win over Kamala Harris because she did not take the time to spend time with Joe Rogan. Of course, Trump did do the 3-hour interview with Joe Rogan, which made him late for stuff and whatever, but getting 45 million views on YouTube for that actual appearance. Kamala Harris, for about 3 or 4 weeks prior to that actual interview, was rumored to be working out the deal was going on. And at that last minute, Rogan said it just couldn't happen because Harris wouldn't come to Austin and sit in the studio, and Rogan would only get about an hour instead of the normal just open time. And Trump sat for 3 hours. So because he couldn't get the time allotted and the place to do it, the natural place to do it in the studio, she didn't go on. And because of that, she may have lost some votes in the manosphere going forward. It's an interesting take. There's a lot of interesting takes. And at this point in time, in the post-mortem, you have to kind of have something to talk about for a while as we detox off of election talk and figure out what happened, why it happened, for people who are going to run again, what to do to fix it next time, and for people who are just trying to just get on with their lives, how to normalize what we have going on and go back into dealing with stories about Gypsy Rose Blanchard, which we'll get to in a bit. So it's one of those things. But essentially, this is one person, and he has a sentiment of many of the men, the young men in this world, that Harris could not take the time to spend 3 hours with Joe Rogan to do the ramble regular person talk. If you couldn't spend that time there to talk to general people, she was not the woman to really lead the nation. Your mileage may vary, of course, on that one. pausing from the news, as I said, 4 more stories in the way. These next stories, much less of importance, more of a kind of a factor, but you should enjoy them anyway. And if you're enjoying what you got before, the newsier stuff, and then going to enjoy what we have going forward, the factor stuff, we ask you to help us out in sharing the love that you get from us with other folks to help grow our atmosphere, grow our empire, if you will. We need you to like, share, and subscribe to the work we do. This video in particular, and other works out there that are giving you the news you're looking for, or giving you information you hadn't gotten because we're still talking about Donald Trump all day. We have 4 news stories that are not Donald Trump-ish, so you're welcome. But if you're liking what you're seeing, like the video. Show us that we're actually doing the right things. We're picking the right stories for you in our selection for the morning. You do deem them conversational. We'll get to that in a moment, but we're picking the right ones to actually talk about going forward. Also, share with other folks, like-minded people who enjoy getting the news in, I'll say, quirky ways, as we try to give you best to give you nice, clean, actual news stories, the actual pieces to it, plus commentary that's more or less straight. You get where I'm coming from and get my background from how I commentate, but I try to be fair with the actual issues. And of course, if you're not getting this automatically popping up in your feeds, like getting notifications to say that we're here, subscribe, whether it's YouTube, X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, wherever it is. Subscribe so you get your chance to see us as we pop up in your feeds and throughout the mornings and days with things going forward. Let's get back to the news. This is one that I had to scratch my head a little bit because I was like, I knew this was not a novel concept. I knew they've done this before. But Lorne Michaels, in our 5th story, actually begged Jimmy Fallon not to write the original SNL Mirror Sketch. He, being Jimmy Fallon, is essentially the grandfather, the father, the spawn is the spawn of the sketch where a person looks in the mirror who is, portraying another person, and on the side of the mirror is an actual person. Jimmy Fallon did it here in the picture you see with Mitt Romney, so I knew it was not a new political thing. I just can remember who did it. He also did it with Mick Jagger, which was an interesting thing as well. But in the original sketch that was written, it was basically the legendary producer Lorne Michaels just did not want it to happen. When Jimmy Fallon tossed it out there, Lorne was like, yeah. So he has a distinct taste in selection and things, and was really cautious about the direction and the humor style of the sketch, which had him playing a character, but then interacting with the other character, the actual person, in reflection. Fallon made it happen, and it came one of the more memorable and now more repeatable sketches going forward. It won over audiences, and Michaels essentially was hesitant, but he basically made it happen, which of course led to last weekend, where Kamala Harris, played by Maya Rudolph, sat in the mirror and talked to Kamala Harris, who was actually Kamala Harris, a few days before the election. Do you listen to Radiohead still? Radiohead was a big band back 20 years ago, back when I was in college. And then there's still a lot of people who are, have that mindset. We're stuck in that 80s, 90s music mindset because today's music is kind of But at a solo concert a few days back, Radiohead frontman Thom Yorke walked off the stage after being heckled by audience members for his pro-Israel stance. This happened on the 30th of October, where he was interrupted by someone who was just out there yelling at him while he's playing guitar on stage about the Israel-Hamas conflict. Just a heckler in the crowd, basically saying Israel genocide in Gaza, just going over and over and over again, accusing him of that, just because he, being Yorke, is a staunch supporter of Israel, and people think they have the right to just speak when they want to. In response, Yorke challenged an individual to come on stage and express their views directly. When they did not come on stage, Yorke left, but returned shortly after to perform Karma Police, one of the final songs of the night, the Radiohead feature. So he did not walk out completely on the concert, did not kill it altogether, but he did stop for a while to kind of compose himself and go forward. The Goonies may or not be good enough, but the house is having issues where they actually used to live, or used to live on the movie, or pretended to live in the movie. The person who bought the house from the Goonies is now battling with neighbors over whether or not fans should keep showing up at that house. In November of 2022, excuse me, breathing techniques. Back in November of 2022, Goonies superfan and entrepreneur Baymet Zachariah purchased the iconic house from the 1985 film, The Goonies, which is in Astoria, Oregon. He bought it for $1.65 million. It probably isn't that much worthy of a house, I'd say, but property values, I don't know how the property values are up in that neighborhood in Oregon, because it's supposed to have been just a working class neighborhood in the picture. But Zakari welcomed his fans to visit the property and display a banner saying, "Hey, you guys, Goonies are welcome," which became a problem for the neighbors, who did not quite like the open invitations for just random people showing up to hang out at the Goonie house, increasing traffic and other disruptions from the neighborhood. One neighbor responded with a sign that said, "Of course, Goonies not welcome," highlighting the community's concerns over the influx of visitors. The disagreement underscores the challenges of balancing the interests of film enthusiasts with the privacy and tranquility of local residents. The Goonie house is still a popular house 40 years after the actual movie. But what we do have is the nostalgia thing can become overwhelming. And when just random people are clogging your streets for a tourist attraction that's really just a house in the middle of a neighborhood, it becomes an issue. That becomes a real issue. I wonder what their homeowners association is doing with it, because in my homeowner association, there would be fines. There would be fines. Finally, we have an answer, and we are going to give it. But we know, we so know we're not done with Gypsy Rose Blanchard at all. But the pregnant Gypsy Rose Blanchard has revealed the father of her baby after taking a maternity test, after being, of course, accused by her ex-husband of selling the rights and making money off this test because maybe she needs money. Gypsy Rose Blanchard has confirmed that her boyfriend, Ken Urker, is the father of her unborn child. It is not her ex-husband. Now, she shared the results of a non-invasive paternity test on Instagram, because you do. 99.9% certainty that Urker is the father. This announcement addresses public speculation regarding the baby's paternity, especially considering Blanchard's ongoing divorce from her estranged husband, Mr. Ryan Anderson. Under Louisiana law, Anderson could have been pressured and presumed the father of the birth on the birth certificate due to the timing of the divorce proceedings. They weren't quite divorced yet when the pregnancy was there. So, yeah, he could have been just put on the birth certificate because they assumed it was his because he was still married. The paternity test ensures that Urker will be recognized as the father of the child going forward. And, of course, will still be in the picture going forward with Miss Blanchard. Now, how much picture will Miss Blanchard be going forward? Hopefully not much more, because I'm kind of tired of her. But people are still engaged in the true crime story that is her background and the hot mess that is her now reality-style life. Bless your hearts. Let's talk about our teaser story for this morning. This is a story, the headline, that we are teasing that we could talk about come tomorrow if you deem it worthy of chit chat. And this is where we transition from the active news or interactive news from yesterday to the news going forward on today. Now, our teaser is a headline that we can give you to maybe engage in and tell us it's worthy of talking about, just like you engage in all the other stories we do to get the full slate of stories. We're on Facebook. We're on X. We're on Threads. Threads.net/@thisisconversation. X.com/th_conversation. And Facebook.com/thisisconversation project. What happens on these feeds, on these pages, are links on those big platforms of social media. We post news articles about every 50 minutes for you to engage in, so you know what's happening. Sometimes they've been out there for a while. Sometimes they've been out there for a long while. It takes a story a while for it to develop into something people care about. Sometimes it's more or less breaking news, and we're a little early on the get. And sometimes these are things that may have happened hours ago that that people don't get to because people don't do news all at once at the same time. But the internet also helps as well, and they will help you curate things. So between you guys and the internet, you engage in the stories, you show it up in your feed, you click like, you click the story to read it, you share, you engage in it, you comment on it. The higher a score gets engagement, the better chance we have of talking about it come the next iteration, which will be Friday for the Thursday stories. Now, 8 stories picked today from the top half, 15 of the 30 or so stories you posted over the day yesterday. That's how we got Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She's a pretty high attender. That's how we got the man in the mirror being Jimmy Fallon and Lorne Michaels. That's how we got there. So, of course, how we got Marjorie Taylor Greene and Liz Cheney hanging out and chatting. Cheney, we're chatting with Steve Bannon. You guys engage in those stories. Here's a story that's a big deal that may not quite make it through the day, but this is something that makes a big difference. Weeks after Cuba was hit with a hurricane prior that locked out all its power, after Cuba lost all its power just in general, Cuba, it was left reeling yesterday as a Category 3 hurricane ravaged the island and knocks out power again. The current hurricane, the very late hurricane coming through the Gulf right now, which is expected to hit Florida and apparently come through Little Rock, went through Cuba, knocked the power out for the island again, for the terrible power grid that's having its issues. Are we talking the story up tomorrow? Just engage in this one. And if it's high enough, it's big enough, it got as much engagement, we'll pull it into the narrative that is the 8 stories for Friday. Yesterday, we talked about being active in the morning and evening may cut your bowel cancer risk. Apparently, bowel cancer is not a story we want to talk about in public in this conversation venue, so it got skipped. Let's talk about our spotlight sponsor for today, and it is my book, The Now What Network Manifesto, using citizen power to make your vote and voice actually count in national politics. So I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you've made it through this far. I'm glad you're watching all the way past to the promotions and the announcements and, of course, the advertisements, because this is one that I've been working on in some sense for a while. The book was kind of rushed, to be honest. The book was rushed. It was finished up a couple months ago, so it's been sitting on the shelf waiting to go for election day. But the book was a rush as a way to promote the work I've been doing for about 2 years with the Now What Network website. And that is a website that has just a place to join up, a place to see how you can stay involved and active in politics when the politics isn't so active. There's no more elections for quite some time. Maybe where you are, maybe some runoffs happening in a few weeks. But as far as the national election, the people for the big offices, in most cases, the votes are being counted, so you'll know in a few days, or the votes have been determined and you'll know what's going on. They're still counting the official votes for the president, of course, but we pretty much know it is Donald Trump who will be the 47th president happening going forward. Now, what does that mean for you if you did not vote for him, or if you did vote for him thinking, well, maybe he'll do more things for me and do less tweeting and being nasty going forward, and he doesn't? Now What Network Manifesto lays out 10 powerful tactics to hold our leaders accountable to ensure they work for us and not just for themselves or financial backers. So if you're tired of broken promises and self-serving agendas, check out this book. It's a quick read. It's a simple read. You can stay informed. You can stay up on news. You can keep engaged in community discussions. You do all the things you need to do, and this book will help you outline how to do that. Plus, the website is a place for us to join and meet up online and kind of commiserate together and maybe find ways to join our powers together like Captain Planet and save the world. Maybe. Collective action is what we need together. And this book is all about how to make collective action in your community and make things happen for the top tier of the ballot or the lower levels where things are at your local level. Grab a copy of the the Now What Network Manifesto today and start this journey to accountability with me and with government together. Your voice matters, and together we can make it loud and clear that you guys, they guys, should be listening to us. Follow the link we have in this description presentation. It goes to the Amazon purchases for Kindle and for paperback, or look for J. Cleveland Payne and the Now What Network wherever books are sold. It should be basically everywhere by now. Check it out. This is a big deal in the work I've done. I'm very proud of this book coming from. I'm always proud of all the stuff I do and produce. Some stuff I don't actually publish if it's not quite up to snuff. This is one that I've been really working towards for quite some time with my journalistic background, my political view background. I want to do something that was neutral, but at the same time actually has some impact. Please help me with some impact with this book and the Now What Network website going forward. Quick stop to talk about us again. Us being the Conversation Project and the Conversation Project website. This is conversationproject.com is our home online where we provide for you updates and replays of all the stuff we provide for you. The updates and replays of the news, also of the things you might ought to know, and the weekly roundup video and podcast, plus links to all the other places we can be found on Facebook, on X, on the Instagram, on TikTok. You can find links to all those things, plus where we are via podcast, and of course our email newsletter, which is a great way to get to us because we get it to you straight to you, and we can chat with you on outside things. We also have on the website links for more sponsors. All our sponsors are affiliate links, so if you click on a link and you buy something from them, it costs you nothing extra. You're not paying a premium for us, but we do get a small commission for you coming in through our door, our portal. And of course, if you want to directly partner with us, go to the partnership page and find out how to partner with us either on a one-time gig or you can find up how to be a monthly recurring partner and help us get things going, keep things going along here for the Conversation Project. We thank you in advance for all help you want to offer to us, and we promise to be good stewards of your funds, your time, and resources in the future. And the future is now because this program is now past. The Thursday, November 7th edition of this Things You Might Not Have Heard is now wrapped up in the books there. It's been a long, tiring week and a lot of emotions, a lot of things happening. So hopefully you are finding the right place for yourself in this thing and just enjoying the afterness of election fever. And now it's time to just figure out what's going to happen going forward. It is interesting times. For some people, it may seem like troubling times. So we're going to get through this together because Americans make things happen. Americans make things work. That's just how we get things done in this here nation. What I want to remind you is that in mere moments, I'm going to stop this recording and go to the next one. So if you're looking for the fun stuff, birthdays, history lessons, and a fun thing to celebrate, I got two great ones for you that work out for your hangover, for your election coverage, because some of us really do need a drink. We got two drinks in this one. There's your tease for that one. So stay here and look forward to come up live in your feed in a few minutes, or look forward in your feed already if you're watching this thing delayed. Love you guys. Mean it so much. What stories 8 will make it into the headline slate for tomorrow morning? It's all up to you. Go to the feeds, follow them, engage in the stories, and let us know what stories are worthy of the chit chat. Love you guys. Mean it so much. We're out of here for the new stuff. Fun stuff come up in a minute. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy.